Yeah, so my name is Nigel Douglas. I work on Falco, specifically around marketing the project, enablement, community advocacy, just to make sure that people understand how the project works and really to grow user adoption. So Falco's a CNCF now graduate project. So what happened is Sysdig, the maintainers, the core donators of the project in CNCF, they went through an incubation process. This is a rigorous process, involves a technical oversight committee at CNCF. It has third-party audits. A lot of this proves that the project is durable, tested, and it's compliant, right, to go into production environments. Now, Falco is the underlying open source project of Sysdig. Now, Sysdig, what we do is we build a platform based on Falco. So for users who, for instance, don't want to manage their own rules, maybe they want fine-tuned rules from threat research engineers, Sysdig offers that, right? So Sysdig is a CNAP, a Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. That managed platform does the detection response with Falco, but also enriches the context across vulnerability management, compliance auditing, and posture reporting. So you really get that end-to-end visibility from pipeline through to runtime. So what we were doing is we're doing a cloud native security workshop. Now we were really trying to get beginners who are new to Kubernetes, new to cloud native, who are trying to understand system calls and the basics really to get up and running. So we went in kind of a 3-hour session. We focused about maybe an hour or so between breaks to really understand how to detect threats using Falco. And we did this through Instruqt. So we set up these kind of curated process of detecting with default rules and then building your own curated rules and really opening up the conversation. Users got a chance to break things, which was really fun in a safe sandbox environment. In the second half, we were responding to threats. And the hope was, after about 3 hours or so, they felt like they were ready to move forward with the project. I wanted every user, irrespective of their background, right? Whether or not they were cloud native experts, whether or not they were coming from traditional non-Linux environments, to be able to be in a consistent environment where they would finish on the same steps. And I think Instruqt really allowed us to do that, where we had this kind of safe, constructed process where users were able to copy and paste the commands, but at the same time had the flexibility to run something arbitrary and really break their environment. Yeah, we had about 88, so it was a really decent turnout. And what we found as well, what was fun, was after the session, those who had to leave early, they went a bit later, they were saying, it's possible I can still access that link. Because the idea is I want that same consistent experience. Maybe I want to go back to a previous track and I want to see, okay, could I repeat that or do it different? And we're saying, yeah, of course you could. The natural reason behind that is we want to continue to build more Instruqt labs in the future. In this Falco community, falco.org, we want to talk about how we have upcoming Instruqt labs on specific topics, right? We'll go from beginner to intermediate. Eventually we're going to have expert topics. And the idea is those who are consistently engaging with these Instruqt labs will come back and say, okay, now I want to do the expert one and I want to do it in my own time. So that's the future plan. Feedback was super positive, right? We brought the same Instruqt lab, the same training experience over to our own booth just here. And the nice thing about that is we had people coming back again because they had follow-up questions about why I did something a certain way. I think the other thing that was really nice about feedback was a lot of people who went to booths, right? They went over, they joined either halfway through or at the end of an arbitrary demo, and they don't fully understand what was the problem that was being solved in the demo. The demo looked interesting, but I didn't know. And with Instruqt, they have a chance to go in, click the buttons, get a chance to understand the underlying system and better solve their specific problem. So yeah, that transparency was key, especially at a developer conference like this. The biggest one I checked for was tracking for drop-off rates, right? I think Instruqt does a really good job here. So if you find that we're doing intermediary topic in the beginning, maybe beginner, and then at some point it got very technical and it was more capture the flag style and it gave them more freedom, we noticed maybe more drop-offs in mid of the session, which is of course not desirable, but it also gives us traditional feedback where we can say, oh, maybe I did something horribly wrong there. Maybe if I made it more approachable, maybe I fixed a few things, maybe they would stay to the end of the session. Because of course we want to avoid drop-off, because we want to get to a point where we get to a call to action that either leads to talk to our sales representatives in the future about further conversations, or it might be just how to contribute to the project. So our biggest fear is people drop off at the earliest point of installation. So I go to a community documentation, for whatever reason it might be poorly documented, it might be a case of just it's too technical. And if the user tries to install and it breaks on day one, they don't go further with the project. With Instruqt, it tells you exactly how to deploy, it gives you the right environment that's supported for that installation method, and it gives them the chance to actually see value of the technology early. And as practitioners, they also just want to have hands-on. There's too many security vendors out there, and we're talking, high-level topics, but then they don't practically explain how it's done. And with Instruqt, you get to really actually break it and test it, so that's fantastic. There's so many, right? I think the part I really enjoy, and it's a simple little feature, when you're queuing, when you're waiting for a session, maybe at the beginning, maybe halfway through the session, having these little cue cards where you can say, this is what we're going to cover, maybe throw in a video, maybe throwing in an image, just something that says, okay, this is what you're going to expect, just so even person who's joining and they joined a few minutes later, they can catch up in that queue session, really understand what they're going to get from today's session. And if we, otherwise, if we just jump straight into a terminal, you're losing a lot of that context. So that's probably my single biggest feature. I think it's great. It's super fun, and if I'm doing it on demand in my own house, it's nice just to be able to click the video. It's embedded within the UI, and I just feel super nice.